Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Gems for Gems Hope in Hell. My name is Laura Lee Harrison, and I am a Gems ambassador. We have come a long way from the days before #MeToo, when Gems would be contacted regularly saying that most women who say they are abused are just saying that to get back at their ex. We have gained much acceptance of the reality that people are being abused across the street, in our neighbors' houses, and even often within our own families. Yet, we as a community still struggle to understand the varying forms of domestic abuse, their lasting effects on brain chemistry, self-esteem, and the future impact on all victims, including the children. Yes, even if they just witnessed it. Hope in Hell has been designed to show the different forms of abuse, but also to show that no matter how bad things get, there is always a hope in hell. These stories are real-life accounts of abuse from male and female survivors who got through, clung to hope, and have now built a sustainable life. Some accounts will be read instead of an interview, as many survivors continue to live in fear of their abuser, because although they left, the abuser often doesn't stop doing everything in their power to hurt their victims. For many, it simply never ends. Today we have an anonymous author. I grew up in severe poverty by Canadian standards. My parents neglected me, and only my very basic needs were sometimes met. I grew up with the neighborhood kids, without any positive role models. Many of the adults in the neighborhood battled with addictions and were involved in criminal activities. Most were unemployed and on government assistance programs. Domestic violence and sexual assaults were rampant. My parents didn't drink, smoke, or use drugs. They were not physically abusive, so in comparison to other families, I thought we were living an ideal life. Abuse to me meant physical violence. I had been severely emotionally abused and neglected by my parents, but I didn't see that as abuse. The people around me were in much worse situations. It is all relative. I didn't recognize the other forms of abuse. I wasn't aware at all. I left home at the age of 15 and struggled greatly throughout my teen years. I later graduated from college and was looking forward to starting an exciting, well-paying career. I met the man of my dreams, or so I thought, when I was in my early 20s. He didn't drink or use drugs, and he wasn't physically abusive. He never screamed or raised his voice. He had a great job, savings, and a car. I couldn't believe how lucky I was to meet someone like him. I moved in with him very shortly after meeting him, and we were engaged within months. We got married within the year. This should have been the first red flag. Everything progressed at lightning fast speed. It would take me a very long time to recognize the abuse that was to come for years, and which still continues to this day. It started so slowly and covertly. He would say it's because he cared about me and that he was just being protective because he loved me. For someone like me who grew up surrounded by violence in my community, this was music to my ears. I completely lost who I was as a person during the decade that I was married. I felt like I was unable to make even the simplest of decisions without his help. He wouldn't allow me to drive if he was in the car. He would say it was because he loved me and that it was for my safety. He would pretend to be supportive of the things I wanted to do, but then he would sabotage me or even get revenge if I dared to do the things he secretly did not agree with. There was one night I had some friends over at our house. He agreed they could come over and that we could have some drinks. I very rarely drink, but I had a couple of drinks that evening. Later that night, I awoke to 2 paramedics standing over me in my bed. I was totally shocked and confused and wondered what had happened. My ex-husband had called 911 and told them that I had drank myself into an unconscious stupor and that I was not breathing. I was totally fine. He did this to humiliate me. It was so confusing to me since he had seemed happy that I was having friends over. I asked him why he did this, and he said he thought I was in distress and that he loved me so much and he was worried about me. Another event really stands out. He had cut off my access to finances, so I was at the point where I went to pawn my engagement ring. The clerk took out the diamond tester and informed me that the diamond was not real. I had the receipt from the jewelry shop where the ring was purchased, so I guess he had removed the diamond and replaced it with a fake one. This was extremely humiliating, and I walked out of the pawn shop with my head down and tears in my eyes. When I got home, I confronted him about the ring. He said that of course the diamond was real, and that the pawn shop owner was just trying to trick me and give me less money. I nodded, and I wanted to believe him so badly, even though his explanation made no sense. In fact, the pawn shop clerk had refused to take the ring. He would withhold emotion and intimacy. I always felt alone. I tried to do more to make him happy. I tried to be better. Nothing worked. He was either outright ignoring me or criticizing me in covert ways. If I vacuumed, he would say thank you for vacuuming, and then immediately point out what I had missed or done wrong. When I would try to communicate to him how his comments made me feel, he would just angrily say, "Stop being so sensitive." He put all of the assets into his name only and controlled all of the money. He rarely worked, and 6 years into our marriage, when our child was born, he stopped working completely. Years later, he would brag that he did this on purpose to teach me a lesson. I still didn't see the clear signs that I was in an abusive relationship at this point. One of the moms in my baby group was the first one to really point it out to me. When I was talking about my now ex-husband, her eyes got wide and she looked horrified. "He does what?" I was confused. I thought we had a very normal life. She told me that this is not how people should treat their spouse. She said he was being abusive to me. I laughed and I said, "But he doesn't call me names or hit me." "Not all abuse is physical abuse," she said, with pity in her eyes. Things had really escalated after the birth of our child. He wouldn't really participate in any family activities, and the couple of times he did, it was horrible. One instance was when we were at the zoo and he walked ahead of me with our child. He ignored me and pretended he didn't even know me. When I tried to walk faster to catch up, he would walk faster to get away from me. It was humiliating. I felt so small, so unloved and unwanted. I wondered what I had done wrong to be treated this way. I watched as other families walked by, holding hands and laughing together while I swallowed back my tears. During this time, I was working 7 days a week doing the bulk of the housework and caring for our child. He wasn't working and he would spend all of the days in the garage by himself. Looking back, I don't even know what he was doing in there all day. If I would try to talk to him, he would often stick his hand in front of my face and say, "Shut the fuck up, I'm trying to watch TV." If I tried to hug him, he would push me away. I realized I did not want to live like this any longer. I didn't want my child to grow up with this. I insisted that we had to attend marriage counseling or I was leaving. He finally agreed and he blamed me for all of the issues. He stopped going shortly after. By this time, I was done. I didn't think I could make it on my own, but the thought of not living like this any longer outweighed my fears. He took absolutely everything in the divorce. He was not entitled to it, but I just gave it up to have peace. I didn't want to battle in courts with someone who would go to any length to make my life hell. I left with $100 and hardly any furniture. Suddenly, I was a middle-aged, broke, single mom. Thankfully, I had a career which I loved and which paid well. I worked very hard and saved my money. I was able to buy 2 properties on my own only 2 years later. I didn't think I could do it, but my mortgage broker made me see what I was capable of. I owe her so much for helping me to begin to build back my confidence in myself. I still always second-guessed myself and doubted my ability to make decisions without him or a man. I struggled with very low self-esteem and self-worth for years, until I joined groups which helped me build my confidence and empower myself. I finally began to believe that I was capable and worth something. I am very proud of what I have accomplished since leaving him. I have made many goals and met all of them so far. I have created an incredible life for my child, filled with opportunities, travel, and the making of memories. Sadly, I thought the abuse would end when I left. I want to laugh and cry at the same time when I think of how naive I was to believe that. We have shared custody, so the abuse continues. He's emotionally abusive to our child, and I have to undo the damage every other week. He has told our child that I took all of his money and that I am mentally ill with bipolar disorder, which is not true. He was abusive to me via text messaging for many years after I left. He would send hundreds of messages to me, criticizing me and insulting me. I tried to ignore it, but it got to the point where I went to the court to ask for it to stop. I wasn't eligible for a restraining order or an EPO because it was not physical abuse or explicit threats to kill or harm us. Eventually, I did call the police to try to stop this harassment. The police spoke to him and told him to stop. He finally did. But instead, he started constantly messaging our child when they were at my house. He would say that the child needs to answer him immediately, or he would be calling the police to my house for a welfare check. He began doing this, and I guess you can imagine how confusing and traumatizing this would be for a child to go through. The police warned him about calling for no reason, and he finally stopped. I am unable to have a serious relationship with a man since leaving him. I have PTSD from my marriage, and I am currently seeing a domestic violence counselor, almost a decade later. Let that sink in. I left almost 10 years ago, and I am still seeing a domestic violence counselor. I am counting down the days until our child turns 18. Only then will I finally be completely free from this hell. I wish I had known earlier about post-separation abuse, about the abuser's continuing need for control, their need to win at any cost, and their desire to punish the healthy parent and their children. In spite of him and his persistent abuse, we have made an incredible life for ourselves and have accomplished so much in the past few years. I have done well financially, traveled extensively, written a book, and won many awards. I have wonderful friends and many fulfilling hobbies and projects that I am working on. Thank you to our anonymous author. Your story is incredibly empowering. It can be extremely hard to navigate abuse while you're in it and post-separation. But your story shows us that there is hope, that you can create a really beautiful life for yourself and for your children, even if you're still dealing with some of the abuse. It is possible. It's possible to get away, and it is possible to start new. Never give up hope. Thank you for listening to Gems for Gems, Hope in Hell. Gems for Gems is a registered charity focused on ending the cycle of domestic abuse through providing empowerment and scholarships to survivors. Our goal is to help survivors achieve personal and economic recovery to create lasting sustainability outside of abusive relationships. Gems for Gems has many ways for you to contribute to our cause. We have an empowering swag line through which every dollar you spend will be put directly towards our scholarship program. Please visit www.gemsforgemsswag.com. There are Donate Now buttons on our website, and as a registered charity, we can give tax-deductible receipts. We also have our ambassador team if you would like to become more involved and help our organization achieve its goals from the inside. Please visit our website, www.gemsforgems.com, and learn more about Gems for Gems. Please tune in to our next story and share this one with anyone or anywhere you would like. We can show every survivor, current victim, and community member that there is always A Hope in Hell, one story at a time.